Hi, this is my review of Mugful of Mayhem. Mugful of Mayhem is an adventure for the Hackmaster role-playing game. This adventure starts out as a pretty standard fantasy affair, but as the adventure moves forward, it becomes a bit more twisted, creepier, and moodier. This was written by William Tucker, who also wrote Slaughter at Splinterfang Gorge. And I'm going to put a link in the description below in case you haven't watched that review. So, Mugful of Mayhem, let's talk about the quality of the PDF. The quality is pretty good. Everything is fully bookmarked. You have some awesome looking illustrations. Some of them look quite old school. You have a lot of maps, and I really like that. I'm a map guy. Everything is well written and explained. Perhaps my only criticism would be a couple of encounters where I thought that there would be a bit more, there should be a bit more detail. For example, I think it was one encounter you have to save a child that is drowning, and you don't get the exact position or where your character should be when they're going to rescue that child, because time is of essence during that encounter. But besides that, everything, the quality is almost perfect. Now let's talk about the contents. The background of the story has to do with the Vamels. They were a family of great renown, wealth, and prestige, and they had this manor, this pretty big manor, and that holds many secrets. And everyone in the family had a certain reputation, except for the black sheep, which would be Dilrin. And Dilrin was an obsessive gambler, an alcoholic, and a womanizer. He eventually got this barmaid pregnant, and he didn't want the rest of his family to find out about it. So he decided to take this barmaid into a barn to have her children there, because she gave birth to twins, but actually they were conjoined twins, joined at the lower back, and that birth killed her. So Delrin felt quite guilty about it, and he decided to take care of the conjoined twins. He didn't want anyone to find out about this, so he kept the twins locked inside under the cellar of the manor. Well, in the cellar there are actually tunnels even deeper below. So he kept the twins a bit like prisoners, not exactly, because he actually got them everything that they wanted to. He got them some marionettes. They loved playing with marionettes. But when he was doing business of his own, the twins began to explore the cellar, and they actually found a secret passageway into these tunnels below the manor. And it turns out that the Vamel family had a dark secret. They actually had some people worshipping the creator of strife, one of the darkest deities of the kingdoms of Kalamar setting of Hackmaster. And the twins stumbled into this ritual chamber. They found this group of corpses that were perfectly preserved. In the past, they were a group that were trying to perform some sort of vile ritual, but something went wrong and they all died, and the necromantic energies under the manor preserved them. So these twins started playing with the corpses because they had this affinity towards marionettes. They started playing with the corpses as if they were their toys. So that's pretty creepy. And one of the corpses was actually their great-great-grandmother, if I'm not mistaken. So the scene was set for a lot of foul and creepy things to keep on happening. And then tragedy struck. The fire broke out inside the Vamel manor, and so everybody started to evacuate, but because Dilrin was the only one who knew that the twins were in the cellar, nobody bothered trying to look if there was someone down in the cellar. So everybody escaped alive except for the twins, who actually made it out into the tunnels, but their lungs were already too damaged because of the heat and the smoke, so they perished inside the cultist tunnels. And Delrin was devastated with guilt, and he actually died short after that. So the twins, maybe it was the will of the creator of Strife. The twins came back to life, or rather, it came back as undead, as ghouls, conjoined ghouls. And they started to take control over the corpses of the cultists. This was probably some sort of joke of the creator of the Strife, because the twins liked to play with marionettes when they were alive, and now that they were ghouls, they had control over the cultist corpses that were now newly created ghouls on their own. So this is the background of the story, and the Van Mels had a bit of a hard time after that. They lost their wealth and their prestige, but Rogvi Van Mel, one of the family members, never forgot that there was this family heirloom or relic lost in the fire, and it's basically a very decorative mug, and he never managed to rescue that, so he's thinking of hiring adventurers to search for this mug in the what remains of the manor. So the player characters begin in a city, the city of Valelido, and they should stumble upon Rogvi Vamel as he's having trouble with a pack of wild dogs. The characters have an option of saving him or abandoning him. There are some tips on how to handle the situation if they abandon Rogvi. However, they could take a bit of a blow to their fame and honor, but it depends on the type of party of adventurers that you are handling. But it's cool that in this adventure they give you tips on how to handle that scoundrel way of proceeding. But if you are heroes, well, the party of adventurers are supposed to rescue Rugby, and he will convince them to go search for this mug. He's going to hire them, and he promises further work in the future if they do well. He also hires them to deliver a ship, sort of like a package of spice to a certain inn or tavern. And so the characters are off. Right at the start of the adventure, just leaving Vallido, the characters will have an opportunity to perform another heroic act by saving a child who is drowning that I was telling you about a few minutes ago. And this is sort of like a fateful encounter because a cleric of the Courts of Justice is going to notice them, and he will give them a few vials of holy water because he had a vision that that water will be of help to them. And this water could actually give the characters a bit of an edge when they face off against the conjoined twin ghouls. Something that is quite noticeable of this adventure is that you get a lot of details of Valelido and this other village. I will tell you about it later when I remember the name. And so you have two adventure hubs, two places where the characters can rest and recover, and perhaps even have some dangerous encounters within those places as well. So that's pretty cool. This adventure has a lot of replayability in that sense. And something that is also notable of this area is that this area is a place where humans and hobgoblins have sort of like coexistence. It's not that peaceful, but they get along somewhat. So if your party of adventurers have some more monstrous members, such as hobgoblins, this adventure could be appropriate for them. And so the characters, as they make their way towards the remnants of the Bammel Manor, they will have other encounters. They could bump into giant wasps. A group of goblins that are quite crafty, well, at least in goblin terms when it comes to trap making. They will also have an opportunity to settle some disputes between humans and hobgoblin traders. So it's not just about fighting. There is some place for diplomacy as well, until they make it to the Ryrid Inn tavern, the tavern that they are going to deliver the spice to. And they will have some trouble if they are not careful with a local band of scoundrels. There are also some more opportunities for the player characters to use some more unusual skills, because, for example, maybe one of your characters is quite skilled at navigating boats or rafts or canoes across lakes and rivers. There is an opportunity to take advantage of that and have an easier time, well, depending on how they play it, against a toad pool. And so they will keep on moving forward into the remnants of the Vamel Manor. And once they make their stop into the village of Honeydew, they are going to have a place to recover and get some more information on what happened with the Vamel Manor. There are a couple of places where they could have some dangerous encounters, but there's also a non-player character that if they talk with him, they will discover that he is the maker of the marionettes. When the twins were alive, they enjoyed his creations, and because of an encounter he had with some of the ghouls, he will give the characters. Well, if they pay attention, they could have another tip on how to have an edge when they face off against the ghouls. And it's basically their weakness towards marionettes. Even though the conjoined twins are quite nasty and evil ghouls, they still have a bit of some memories of when they were alive. So the marionettes could be used to paralyze them for a bit as they become somewhat traumatized when seeing these toys. And there are a lot of encounters and detailed places in this village. You're going to be able to explore the graveyard and the canoe shop, the abandoned library. And there are a lot of places that are fully mapped, and there are many things to explore and obtain. Some things could be quite valuable. It all depends on how you proceed. And then once the characters reach the Vamel Manor, things are going to become even creepier. It feels like the creator of Strife has his nefarious eyes on the party of adventurers as the weather becomes gloomy and the environment becomes oppressive. One of the things that I really like of the abandoned Vamel Manor is that there are several factions within it. There's actually, for example, a group of cultists that also serve the creator of Strife, and there are also some nasty beasts. Some of them are unrelated to the entire creator of Strife theme. So it's not going to be unusual that a fight breaks out and you're going to be fighting maybe against orcs, and suddenly a few ghouls come out of nowhere, and it's going to be like a free-for-all. So that's going to be quite exciting. And so you have details on all of the locations of the manor, details on a bandit camp that is nearby. Something that I forgot to mention is that many of the random encounters that I mentioned earlier can be placed wherever you like in the adventure, so you don't feel like forced or obligated to handle a particular structure when running the adventure. You can save some encounters for when the characters actually clear the Vamel Manor and they start to go back to get their rewards. They could get overconfident and you can surprise them and remind them that this is Hackmaster, a highly simulationist game that and does not tolerate cockiness. As the characters make their way through the manor, luckily, hopefully, they will stumble into the secret passageway in the cellar that will lead them to this labyrinth of tunnels, and then they will face off against many undead things until they manage to fight against these conjoined twin ghouls. And this is going to be a pretty nasty fight, so hopefully the player characters will have gotten their hands on the holy water from the cleric and the marionettes from the toy maker to paralyze and damage those ghouls. And actually, those ghouls actually, even though they're, as I was telling you, the villains of the story, they still have a sort of like a childlike mentality, and they created this sort of mound with everything that they thought was valuable or interesting. So if the characters search this mound, they are going to find the mug that they were hired to get. And the conclusion of the adventure can be handled in several ways. The most positive, they're going to get further adventure opportunities from Rugby Vamel, because he will obviously be witness the skill of the player characters. But as I was telling you, there are also some other more negative or conflictive outcomes depending on what they do. And I also forgot to mention that in the Vamel Manor, there is a chance to get a Pegasus mount, and that's pretty cool. If you have a paladin in the group, he's going to love that. But well, it depends on how you handle the encounter again. But the Pegasus is there for the taking if the characters play things appropriately. So let me tell you what I think of this adventure. I think this is an excellent Hackmaster adventure. As you may remember, I recently reviewed The Realm of the Elm King, and I thought that it was a good adventure, but that it felt too basic for Hackmaster. But Mugful of Mayhem, I think you can apply everything that you see in the Hackmaster Player's Handbook and the Game Master's Guide. It's a very tactical and strategic adventure. I also like how the flexibility of all the encounters, that you can place them here and there even before or after the main adventure site, that is the Vamel Manor. I also like the enemies, especially the main villains, and how the adventure starts out. As I was telling you, it feels quite standard for a fantasy role-playing game, but things start to become more twisted and more malign. There are many things that I did not mention of the Vamel Manor, many clues that the characters can piece together to figure out exactly what happened in the Vamel Manor. That's really cool of adventures, especially horror-themed adventures, when you start to find out exactly what happened and you start to solve the mystery little by little. So this is a very detailed adventure. And the inclusion of the city and the village with all of their maps and details on non-player characters and such. You have basically 2 adventure hubs to further use in your campaigns. In fact, Mugful of Mayhem is pretty much almost like a mini campaign of sorts. So I highly recommend that you get Mugful of Mayhem. Even if you do not play Hackmaster, I think this is worth converting to other systems. However, I recommend that you play Hackmaster. As you know, I have the highest opinion of Hackmaster. So Mugful of Mayhem, it's a great adventure. Thanks for watching my review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. See you later.